Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today we are inside of Affinity Photo and I just want to share with you guys a new effect which I've come up with. I say I've come up with this because I've never seen it done anywhere else. So I'm going to officially name this effect the subject background effect. So what we're going to do is on the first design, I'm going to do a couple of designs, but the first one we're going to do a CD cover. So if you guys come up to print, just on your presets up there, and we'll come down to the bottom right hand corner here where we've got CD booklet cover. If you just want to choose that, we'll leave it at 300 if you guys want to print this, and the rest of it we'll leave the way it is. So once you are ready to get started, then just hit that create button. Okay, so here we are on the main interface and we've got our canvas in front of us. So the first thing we've got to do here is bring in an image that we're going to use. But the very important step to this process and this effect to work is the image or subject that we are going to be using has to have no background. So it has to be transparent, just the subject only. So if you guys are using maybe a photo of yourselves, you're going to have to cut yourself out of that image before you can start this effect. If you're not sure how to do that, there's plenty of videos on YouTube on cutting out subjects on backgrounds. So just have a little search and see what you can find. For those of you who just want to follow along with this tutorial and copy me, we're going to go straight over to a website called freepnging.com. And what this website does is it gives you loads of images of celebrities and things like that with a transparent background. So to make it quick and easy, we're just going to search for maybe a pop star as we're doing a CD cover. So I'm going to go for Ariana Grande. And we'll see what we can find after we search her. Okay, so as you can see, there's no background on any of these images. So it's going to make this a lot easier and quicker for me to show you how this works. So just got to have a little look through here, see if there's anything that stands out for you and what you may want to use for your cover. I think that one will make a good magazine, but not necessarily a CD. So I'm going to go to page 2. And that one there, I think for me is going to be perfect. So I'm just going to click on that one. And you can see we've got a much bigger version of this now. And if we just start to drag that, you can see it's just transparent. There's no background on that. And this is the effect that you need if you're cutting out your own image. Okay, so once you found the image that you're happy with, just simply pull up and drag it down to Affinity Photo and just drop it in there. And now we are loading onto another canvas over here, and there's our original. So we're just going to make a copy of her with Command C, come back over to our original canvas and just paste her in with Command V. And first thing I want to do is just zoom out just a little bit, about there, and I'm going to resize her to kind of fill up most of this space here. So I'm going to grab the arrow tool up here, or the move tool to be correct, and it's going to drag her out and make her mostly fit the entire canvas, maybe not a hair at the top. I want it inside of the canvas. So just drag that bottom bit up again, and that will do fine. It's going to bring her over though, because I want her more towards the edge. And at this point, we can just close this other canvas because we don't need it. Okay, I think I want to make it just that little bit bigger just to fill a hair towards the top. So just there. That is me being a bit too fussy, but you can do what you like with that. Okay, so now we can begin to create the background. So just a little bit of information on how I came up with this effect. I was just playing around with a couple of images and I thought to myself, how can I make a background which is always going to complement the image that I'm currently working on? And after trying a few different effects and techniques, this is what I came up with. And like I said, I've never seen it done anywhere else. So I'm going to officially name this the subject background effect, and you will see why as we go on. So as of the 29th of April 2021, this is a brand new effect. Okay, to get started, the first thing I want you to do is make sure you have selected your image that you are using. And I want you to make a copy of that with Command C. And we need to duplicate this, so we're going to hit Command J. And if you pay attention to our layers over here, we've got our duplicated version right there. And once you've got your duplicated version selected, I want you to come over to your image and I want you to move this either to the left or the right. It's entirely up to you, and the spacing is also up to you. But for me, I'm just going to move this slightly over to the right until you can see two of these. You can see her in the background and her in the foreground. And once you're happy with your spacing and your position, I just want you to hit Command J multiple times until it fills all the way over. So we're just going to hit Command J repeatedly. And you're going to end up with hundreds of these, but it's very important that we get it all the way over to fill the canvas. So just keep doing that. Just keep your finger on Command J until you got plenty of these. And I know this looks a little bit daft at the moment, but you'll see in a minute how good of an effect this really is. So I'm just going to keep on going. And it's just gone off screen now, but I should have enough here. So I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit. That should definitely cover my canvas. So once you've got all these copied versions, I want you to select this top one and come down, just click on that again, come down to the bottom, all the way down to the bottom. And I want you to ignore this very last one, keep that where it is, but I want you to select the top one above it, holding down the shift button. So now that selects every single one of these apart from that one we want to leave. And once you've done that, I just want you to hit Command G to group it. And once you've grouped it, I just want you to right click on that and I want you to rasterize that image. Okay, and now we've rasterized that, we're going to bring this all the way over to fill up the canvas. So just drag that over. If you hold down shift, you'll be able to keep that perfectly straight. You see that little gold line right there? And just bring that over to fill your canvas. And if it's too big, you can actually rasterize that and trim just to get rid of the excess that we don't actually need. We could have done that to start with, so I should have showed you that way really, but it's not important. Okay, so now we've got this background. If we move this one above it, she's now sat on here. And the good thing about this is it's complementing every single color that she has because it's come from her image. So now we just need to make this a little bit more artistic. So if we tap on the background and we come down to our effects, I want you to come up to your Gaussian blur or Gaussian blur, however you like to pronounce that. And I want you to blow this right out till you are happy with the blur. For me, I want a little bit of texture. So if I bring this down a little bit more, I want to see some of these lines. I've got to have to come down a little bit more there. These lines here, I want to see a little bit of that just for the next bit of the effect. But you guys can blow this all the way out like that if you want to. So I'm going to try and go for 2 pixels and see if I can... That's probably more about what I'm going for. So if you're happy with your blur, you just come off that. And then we are just going to come up to our layer up there. We're going to come down to new live filter layers. And we are going to go to distort. And we will choose a ripple effect. And we're just going to play around with this to get another kind of effect on this to what we like. And I think I'm going to bring that down a little bit more just to have less white around these edges. And I think that is okay for what I'm going for. So if you guys are happy with that, we can come off that. You can add further effects if you want. Just come back down to your new live filters. And you could also put a ripple in here or a twirl. We did a ripple last time, so you could put a twirl and just mess with this a little bit more to give it a bit more of an effect. And you can start to bend that or do whatever you want to do with that. But I don't really want that effect. I'm going to take that one off. I'm going to delete it. Okay, looking at the background, I think I want to blur that just a little bit more. So I'm going to go to around 4 pixels and see how that looks. I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to commit to this now. I'm going to rasterize this. But if you guys don't want to commit to it, then don't rasterize that. Okay, so there's our background done officially. All we've got to do now is start adding some text and so on just to make this look like a CD cover. So if we just go ahead and grab our text tool, I'll go for artistic text tool. And I'm just going to type in Ariana Grande. Okay, I'm going to select all that. I'm going to change the color of that. And I'm going to give that a different font. So if you guys don't have the font I'm going to use for this, I will put the name in the description so you can download it. It will be a free font, no doubt, if you don't already have it as standard. So I'm going to look for something kind of handwritten for Ariana. And that will work perfect. So I think that distance stroke, that's called. And once we have selected this, we've got to find a rough size that we want. So I'm going to make that bigger. Maybe 72 is fine. Maybe go for 73. Just a little bit bigger. And what I want to do is maybe put this at an angle. So if you hold down shift and just rotate that to the left, give it that slight little angle, maybe a bit more than that. That's too much. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. And I'm just going to bring that down to roughly where I want to put it for the moment. We may move that around in a minute. And I'm going to put a drop shadow on that. So go down to the effects and we'll go to outer shadow. And I'm going to give this a 2 pixel by 2 pixel on the radius on the offset. And see how that looks. Not too bad. We could possibly go for 3. Okay, we'll leave it at 3 for now if you are happy with that. So next thing I want to do is put a border around this. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. It's going to drag this from one corner to the other and just let that snap into place. We are going to turn off our fill with that little circle with a cross through it. And we're going to give that a stroke of white. We are then going to come over to our stroke section up here on the left hand corner and just going to adjust that to a size that we want. So I think I'm going to go for maybe, I'll try 4 for the moment. And I don't want rounded edges on this. So I'm going to put the join as a miter join. And I'm just going to come down here and resize this now. If you hold down shift and command at the same time, it will just pull it in and keep that proportion and get a rough size you're happy with. So that stroke is too big for me looking at it now. So I'm going to come down to maybe 2. Okay, that is looking better. Maybe 1.5. Okay, I'm going to leave that at 1.5, but maybe adjust it to 2 in a minute. And as you can see, it's fully centered because we pulled it in on itself. But if you feel it isn't, you can move that around. So we're going to put a drop shadow on this as well. So back to our effects and outer shadow. And we went for a 3 pixel. So we'll copy that, keep it consistent. And there is that step done. And I'm just going to zoom this in a bit bigger so you guys can see it better. I'm going to hit Command 0 to fit to screen. I am working on a 27-inch screen, so sometimes I may have to zoom out as it appears really big to me. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is bring in the title of the album. And her latest album is called Positions. So we're just going to type that in now. We'll grab the artistic text tool and we'll just drag this out. And we just write Positions, and we're going to change the font on this one as well to something similar. Not the same font as that, I don't think, but something kind of similar. So another handwritten one. Once again, if you don't have the font I'm going to select, I will put it in the description so you can find the name and just download that. And Great Vibes, I'm going to use that one. And I'm going to resize that smaller, around 45 to 50. I'll go for 47. Let's see where that leaves us. Okay, that's not a bad size. So we are going to put a drop shadow on this like we did before. So back to the effects, outer shadow, 3 pixels on the radius and 3 pixels on the offset. Hit enter. And there we go. So this title here, I'm going to put partially behind our head. And this is the good part also of having an image cut out. We can just simply come down and drop that behind her. Just like that to get that effect. Okay, and then just start positioning other elements where you want to put them. So I'm going to bring that down there a little bit. Around there. And this album I know generally has swearing in it. So what we also need to do with this is add one of them parental advisory stickers that goes on the cover. So if I go over to Google and we'll just go and look for that. Parental advisory, and then we'll just go for a logo. And we should be able to find what we need. And that there is exactly it. So if we just drag that into Affinity Photo. And once again, just make a copy of this and come back to our current canvas. And we're just going to drop that in. And I'm just going to zoom out just to resize that to a better size. Just drag that up there. And we'll zoom back in with Command 0 to fit to screen. And we're just going to position this where we want it. So I'm going to snap this to this border on the bottom and the right hand side. So if you hold down shift and use your arrow left key to push that once, that'll give us that. And then hold down shift and push your up key. And then that will give us the same spacing throughout that. You can make this bigger if you want to. I think I'll make that just a little bit bigger. So around there, I think is a good size. So there's our parental advisory sticker. And I think the last thing we need to add on this is maybe a sticker up here, which should have some of the tracks that are available on the album. So we'll come over here, we'll grab our rectangle tool and we'll change that to a rounded rectangle tool. And it's going to drag this out to a size that we want. So around there is fine. And I'm going to take that border off, but I'm going to give this a different color of, I'm going to sample maybe that dark purple red there. And just bring that down to around that color. I think looks okay. I might change that in a moment. Okay, so now we've got that. We're just going to bring in a little track list onto this. So if we grab our text tool and we'll just drag that out to fill this box, and we will just type featuring, and I'm just going to center that text. I'm going to color that white. I'm going to leave this in Arial because it should just be simple to read, and we're just going to write down a few of her songs. So I'm just going to quickly just look on my phone at a track list of what she has on this album and just write down a few little things. Okay, so we've got one called Shut Up. And we've got 34 plus 35. We've got Motive. And Just Like Magic. And Off the Table. And 6:30. Okay, so now we just need to resize this text. So if we select all of this, I want to keep that feature in roughly around that size, I think. I'm just going to bring this down in size to something we can manage to get inside of this box. We're going to have to change the spacing in here. And to do that, we just come over to the character section. And we come down to this section here with the two A's. And we're just going to change this. So that's still too big on 5. So we're going to have to put this in manually. I'm just going to go for 1. And that looks pretty spot on. That is fine. So I'm just going to come off that and just center this to the shape of the sticker. And looking at the sticker itself, I don't like how rounded the edges are. So we're going to come up here to the corner tool and just change that to around 10%. I think looks better. And we're going to come back over to our layers. We're going to select that one and the background. Hit Command G to group that. Hopefully this will snap on the border, but it may not. No, it isn't. Okay, so we'll just snap it to the top and the corner of the left-hand side. And we'll do the same as before. We'll hold our Shift key while using our arrow button down and to the right and just count as many as you like. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we've got that same space at the top as well as we do on the left. All I really would change here is maybe just make that a little bit smaller. So around that size perhaps. And I'm quite happy with that. You could put a drop shadow on this if you want, but this probably would be a sticker on an album cover itself rather than part of the artwork. So there you go. I think that looks really professional and definitely something you would see on a shelf. So you can see how good that background effect looks. If you guys like the design, then let me know in the comments. You can see what is achievable with just doing this. So before I go, I'm going to do another quick design just to show you that it will generally work with any image that you use, providing you cut the subject out of the background. So before we move on to a new canvas, we're just going to close down that one. We don't need it. And I'll leave that one open for now, but we're going to go over to new. And this time round, we're going to do maybe like a magazine, maybe a front cover or an advertisement. So I think we're just going to go for an A4 just to make it quick and easy. Okay, so for this part of the video, I've already pre-downloaded some images to make it quicker. I've just got a Hugo Boss logo down here, which we're going to use. And I've just got some aftershave there that we'll use for this poster. You can just simply find these on Google. And I've gone back to the website and we're going to use Justin Bieber for this one. So you've got to find an image you like. For me, I think this will work really well. Okay, so just drag him into Affinity Photo like we did before. and we're going to make a copy of him, and we're going to go back to our canvas. We'll paste him in. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just to resize him. And we're going to fill up the page roughly to the top. We could just generally have that all the way to the edge, and we'll put it like that. So I'm quite happy with that placement. And from here, we'll do the exact same thing that we did before. So we're going to hit Command C for copy, Command J to duplicate. And we're just going to move him over slightly again, just till we've got two of them, as you can see. And we'll just keep hitting that Command J till we fill it all the way over, until you know you've got enough of these to fill the canvas. So that should be more than enough. So once again, make sure you select the top one, come all the way down to the bottom, ignore the very last one, and you want to click the one above that. So hold down Shift, tap that one, and we've got all of them apart from the bottom one. And we're going to hit Command G to group that. And we're just going to move this over now, just to make sure we fill up the canvas. And then from here, we can just right click that, and we'll just go to rasterize and trim. So it'll go around our canvas itself. There we go. And then we can bring him back on top of it like we did before. So I'm just going to zoom in again at this point, Command 0 to fit to screen, and we'll come on this background and back to the effects, that Gaussian or Gaussian blur, however you pronounce that. Last time I had about 4, I think, so I'm going to try that again. Not enough on that one, so I'm going to bring that one all the way up till I've got a little bit of that texture like we did before. So around there is fine. And then once again, back up to the layer section, down to new live filter layer. And we're going to go to distort, and we'll go for a ripple. And we can adjust this to what effect you want to go for. So I'm going to drag that right out, I think. Just give it a bit of a texture behind it with them kind of diamond shapes. And I'm quite happy with that for the moment. Just going to zoom out on this now because I want to get rid of the white. I don't like the white. So I'm going to select the background. I'm going to hold down Command so I can pull this out evenly at all angles. Just drag that out a little bit more. So about there, I think is fine. So I'm just going to zoom back in with Command 0. And if you're happy with what you got there, then we're just going to rasterize this and trim. And rasterize. And then that step is finished as well. So now we just got to start bringing in some of the details. So if we come over to, we can get rid of that one. We don't need him anymore. And that was our previous project. If we come and select the Hugo Boss logo, we just Command C and copy that. Come back over. And it's going to make this bigger. And once again, if you need to get this logo, you just go into Google and type in Hugo Boss logo PNG, and you will find this transparent version. So I'm just going to make this big enough to fill up most of the top of the page. So around there is fine. Just going to center that and bring it down roughly to where I want. So like that, I'm going to put this behind his head, so we can kind of still see what it says and we know who the brand is. I'm going to change the color of this by putting a gradient on it. So we're going to come down to our effects, down to gradient. And that looks all right, to be fair, the color that is already. Maybe make that blue a bit darker. But we could get away with keeping that the way it was. So I'm quite happy with that. That was quick and easy. So what we need to do now is bring in the product itself. So if we come back over to here, and this isn't transparent, unfortunately, so we're going to have to cut this out. Even though it has the kind of transparent background, it isn't a transparent image. So to cut this out, we're just going to come over here to our selection tool. And we're just going to start coming around here now, just painting that in. And don't worry about getting it perfect, as we're going to refine it in a minute, which will get a better job of getting the edges. And just make sure you fill everything up. It's got quite nice sharp edges on this, so it should be quite easy to cut out. And just make sure you got all of that logo inside of there. And then we'll just hit that refine button up there. Just make our brush a little bit smaller just while we paint around these edges. And just do this around the entire object so we can get as close to those lines as possible. And you can let go of this at any point and just carry on again. And just do that around the entire image. And here you can see there's kind of a little bit in the background there that's disappeared. So what you want to do there is come over here and change it to foreground. And then you can just paint that pink back in. Let's go over there and just get that bit of the image back that's disappeared into the background. And then we'll change back to matte again, and we'll just come over the rest of this to make sure we've got sharp edges. Okay, that should be good enough. It's not going to be perfect down here, but we're probably not going to notice it once we get on the image. So once we've done that, we're going to change our output to new layer, and we just hit apply. And now we've got the cutout version right here. So if we make a copy of that with Command C, come back over to our document, and we'll paste it in with Command V. And we're just going to make that a little bit smaller and just position this roughly where we want to put it. So I think about there is fine. And what we could also do with this is put maybe an outer glow on there. So if we go to effects, we go to outer glow, give that color of white that we've got, just change that radius till we find something we're happy with. And just bring that down a little bit intensity, just so it's not so in your face. And that doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to leave that the way that is for the moment. So this is pretty much finished. All we have to do is give it kind of a little slogan, which should be in reference to this. So this is called Bottled Night. So we just got to come up with a catchy little slogan that we'll just type over here. So I think we're going to put something like "The night you won't forget." That's quick and easy. So we'll grab our artistic text tool. The night you won't forget. Okay, and I'm going to select all of that. I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to give us a different font. And I'm going to try something I use quite often because I really like it. And see how that looks. I'll put that name into the description so you guys know which one it is. And I'm just going to make this a bit smaller just to fit it in there. And if we try and put that level with that, and just make you a little bit bigger, about there. And just bring you over slightly. So there you go, another professional looking image, which could be on the front of a magazine or inside as an advertisement, using the image as a background effect. So you can see what is possible with doing this, and it is a really good effect. I'm sure you guys can get some really good designs out of this. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and comment on what you thought about the designs, and I will see you in the next video.